Prepare to qualify.
Hey race fans, it's Troy with Prepare to Qualify. Thanks so much for watching. It's so good to have you. Hey, the off season is here. The driver silly season is winding up, so we know where everybody's going to be next year for the most part. And now it's a unique opportunity for us fans to get out there and make a difference, and also give us something to do. And so on today's episode, we're going to talk about the power of momentum and how IndyCar has really got it going in the right direction at the end of 2025 with the finale in Nashville and some of the ratings that we received over the year, and all the races being on Fox, and attendance being really good at some of the last races, especially the ovals, which is very encouraging. So how do we keep that momentum going? And also that there's no guarantee that the momentum is going to last. I've seen it happen many times over the years as I've been following this series, and when you have the momentum going your direction, you think it's never going to stop, but it's a funny thing, and it can end at any time. So it's important for us fans to really, get out there and make a difference and help keep the growth in the series going in the right direction. So we're also going to talk a little bit about the 2026 schedule that came out last week, and how important it was that IndyCar really front-loaded it with some good races at the beginning of the year. I mean, that's huge to help any kind of momentum going that you got going now. If you were to have the race in St. Petersburg, and then that 2 or 3 weeks off, and then 2 or 3 weeks off after another race, I mean, that was just going to be difficult to keep it going. But we don't have to worry about that. We have so many positive things going, and to want to make sure that we keep it going in the right direction. And as fans, we know what's required to make that happen. We're going to talk about sponsor regret. I see it in Formula One, NASCAR, and IndyCar. It's becoming more and more of a problem in motorsports. Is the fact that these sponsors will put their revenue down and put their name on the side of a car, invest in the series and a team, and then I don't know what happens. A few races into that, they are regretting it, and the next thing you know, you don't see them again, or maybe you see them sponsor an Indy 500 only car, and that, I mean, that's great. It's just that when these teams work as hard as they do to get these sponsors, the last thing you want is to have them regretting it and have them wanting to back out. And what can we do to help make sure that doesn't happen? We're also going to talk about, as IndyCar fans, how can we participate in the off season? And we're going to come up with a sales blitz, and I've been in sales and promotions and marketing my whole career, and done many sales blitzes over the years, and I think I have a few things down. And also I'm gonna show you guys how I do my own little sales blitz. I got my 3 PNC Bank diecast cars to go to my local PNC Bank tomorrow. So I'll report on that in the next episode. But yeah, I'm gonna come up with a blitz of sponsors and that I can patronize and support over the next few months, and I encourage everybody else to do the same. So we're going to talk about how to do that. We're also going to talk about we're going to run down a list of the most important sponsors. I mean, I don't ever really see that. And I'm going to come up with a link in this episode at the bottom, a link to these sponsors. But I was able to come up with almost about 30 main sponsors that have been either in the series for 1 to 2 years or prominent. They're consistent, and even some of the new ones that we need to look out for and make sure that we let them know that we appreciate their investment in the series. So we're going to talk about that. We're also going to have a couple of sponsors of the week. There's a new company called Brown & Chapman that's in Indianapolis that sponsored the last race for Andretti Global, number 28, Marcus Ericsson. I did some investigation into what they do, and it's really interesting. So we're going to highlight them, and then we're going to also highlight Honda Racing Corporation, which sponsored a couple of cars during the actual season. Some individual races. They had one race for Chip Ganassi Racing with Alex Palou, and then one race with Andretti Global. I think maybe Kyle Kirkwood was sponsored by Honda Racing Corporation for a race. So we're going to highlight them. And then we're also going to preview what my sales blitz looks like and what kind of things I'm going to do and say or whatever when I go over to my local PNC bank tomorrow. So we're back, and first off, we're going to talk about the momentum that was created at the end of this season, and IndyCar's definitely got it going in the right direction. What a great finish. There's a lot of interest for next year, especially now that the schedule for 2026 has come out. I think the momentum is higher than I've seen in the last 10 or 15 years. But again, momentum is a funny thing. It can be going your way, and then all of a sudden, little thing happens and it turns. I mean, I noticed the NASCAR ratings came out yesterday for their race in New Hampshire, and they were down significantly. And that's the third or fourth race in a row. But it's almost we're almost lucky that the season ends when it does, because there's no way that you're ever going to compete with the NFL. So don't even try. This gives us time to reflect on some of the great racing that we saw this year and be excited about 2026. And what we're going to talk about here next is how fans can really make a difference in this time that we have, and how to be aware of some of the sponsors that we have. And it's amazing how you'll start noticing, if you think about it, you'll start noticing the IndyCar sponsors all over the place. They'll just pop up right in front of you, and it's fun when you participate in the growth of the sport. So I'm looking forward to 2026. And then second, also we're going to talk about the actual schedule. And one of the things that people are a little disappointed in is maybe the fact that, well, a lot disappointed, some of the sponsors are too, the fact that we're not, that the series isn't going to Mexico next year. And, it's been talked about for 10 years, and, I know it's a difficult thing to pull off. It's not like, a race in Canada. It's a totally different animal, trying to get all that equipment logistically, make all those arrangements to get, down to Mexico City. Just from what I heard, listening to the NASCAR radio this year after the Mexico City race, most of the drivers and the team owners and things like that they interviewed were really not that positive. I mean, they tried to stay positive and sound like that things were great, but man, I think it was a nightmare for a lot of the teams. It's just getting everything down there, and some of the accommodations maybe weren't up to par. Some of the team members got sick while they were down there. So there's a lot to think about for Mexico City. Hopefully it'll happen next year. But I definitely understand how hard it is to plan a race and to actually pull it off. I just think the great part of the schedule for next year is the front loading of the races and the just momentum that we've already got built up from last year. Boy, it starts off in St. Pete, and it just rolls all the way to April. And then once April gets here, everybody starts thinking about May. And that's the great thing about what we have being IndyCar fans, is the fact that we always have May. No matter what, no matter how bad things get, there's always the Indy 500, and that is something that's definitely helped to keep the sport going during some of the years where things were a little bit iffy. And I'm just excited about it. It's a great time to be an IndyCar fan, and so let's talk a little bit about. So next we're going to talk about sponsor regret, and what is it? It's kind of like buyer's remorse. It's a sponsor that comes into the series with a lot of fanfare. They own a company. They decided to spend the money to put their name on the side of the car, and then all of a sudden after that, all the momentum kind of dies. And it's the responsibility of the teams, obviously, that acquire the sponsorship and the series, and even as fans, for us to make a difference and let that sponsor know that we're aware of the fact that they're on the side of a car. I mean, it's just that simple. It's just about being aware of it. And so that's something that I've always wanted to help promote, because I could see it happening, and it's so disappointing when you think how hard it is to get a sponsorship, a major sponsorship, and then to have that sponsor go away after a couple of races and then not ever pay to put their logo on the car ever again. And We just can't have that. So whenever a sponsor comes into the series, the series needs to do a good job of welcoming them. So, maybe send them little gifts, send them the diecast cars, the little ones, to a bunch of the C-suite people, just to thank them, maybe a little care package. And then as fans, if we're aware of who the sponsors are, it only takes one little message. Say you were to go into a Verizon store and you start talking to the people that work there, and of course, most of them are gonna, not even really know what IndyCar is, or that the fact that they even sponsor a car. They just aren't. So, you go to all the trouble of kind of explaining it and how cool it is, and maybe get a couple of them to watch the race. You show them some pictures of the car, and they get really, excited about it. And then, the manager of that local Verizon branch, might send an email to someone and say, hey, someone came in today, and I didn't know that we sponsored a race car. It was pretty cool. And, they brought us a couple of die-casts, and that message gets all the way up to someone, in the leadership team. And then, that's all it takes. Just little things like that. I mean, you'd be amazed at how effective little gestures of just appreciation and awareness and everything will go. And a lot of that will get back to the person that made the decision to sponsor the car. And that's what we need, because that's what's not happening when the sponsors go away. They just perceive the fact that maybe they spend all this money and they're not getting anything for it. And it's a lot of times it's not the fault of anyone in IndyCar or any of the teams. It's just a perception. But that's where the fans can really come into this and make a difference, is because we can do little things that don't cost a lot of money. I mean, it's not like you have to go out and go buy things that you don't need. Just through your normal course of business, as you run your life, just be aware of who the sponsors are. And we're going to go over the major sponsors, in a little bit. And they'll just start coming at you, and you'll have little opportunities. And like I said, you could buy a couple of little diecast cars, or maybe follow up in a few months when the season gets close to starting, and tell the people that you talk to, hey, don't forget, like you sponsor a car, the season starts in a couple of weeks, and maybe you get a few of them to go to the race or even watch it. But that's the thing, like I said, that is fun about it, when you start seeing your efforts pay off. And it's a responsibility of everyone. But, the fans are the people that, we're the ones that are going to buy the products and spend the money on, the things like, Joseph Newgarden's car up there is Shell. Every time I need gas, and I have a Honda CRV, a hybrid, but every time I go to get gas, I go get it at Shell, and I even talk to some of the people that work at the Shell station. You wouldn't think they would care, but they really do. They think it's pretty cool, that their logo's on the side of a car. So, anyways, that's what we're getting at. And so next we'll talk a little bit about how the off-season Blitz is going to go, and what kind of things you can do. Maybe target a few sponsors in your area. And just walk in and start a conversation. I mean, you'd be amazed at how much you know and how little they know. Hey, next I want to talk about an example of what I'm talking about. I was able to go to the race a couple of years ago at Laguna Seca out of Monterey, California. And if you haven't had a chance to go to that race, that's definitely one that you should put on your bucket list, because it's beautiful out there. I didn't really even realize that places like that existed, being from Texas, but had a great time. The track could use some improvements, especially due to the fact that the season finale is going to be out there next year and for probably years after that. So there's definitely some things the track can do, but we'll talk about that in a future episode. But I was at the race with my family, and one thing cool about Laguna Seca is that you can walk right into the paddock, right where all the teams were working on the cars, walk right up to their garage areas. And a lot of them will just walk up and talk to you. A lot of I talked to Alexander Rossi for quite a while that day, and when he was with Arrow McLaren, and he was just standing right there, and I just kind of generated a conversation. I talked to Stingray Rob for a while, that's one of the cool things about that track. So I'm definitely a fan of Laguna Seca, but I was standing there, and I noticed that the president of Honda Racing Corporation, David Salters, was walking up to one of the garages, and I noticed him because I had been watching some of his YouTube videos on how he and the president of racing at Chevrolet had come up with the hybrid system. And they were under a lot of pressure because that's right when the hybrid was first starting to be used in the races. And so there was a lot of uncertainty. A lot of the teams were kind of complaining about how it was working. There was, some times when the car wouldn't restart due to the hybrid system. And so, you could definitely tell that he was under a ton of pressure. I mean, he kind of had his head down. He's walking. Well, I noticed him, and I just kind of walked up to him and I said, "Hey, I noticed that you're the president of Honda, and I've been watching your videos about your development of the hybrid, and I think they were great, and the technology, is amazing, and you guys did a great job, and thank you for explaining that." To me, now that I know more about it, it makes the racing a lot more interesting. Knowing how that the hybrid it will be used, in certain parts of the race to give a little bit of increased power, or maybe help with fuel savings and fuel mileage and all that kind of stuff. And I've never seen anybody's face light up like his did. I mean, he was just so talkative after that. He talked to me for about 10 minutes about a lot of the technical parts of it. But, that's what it takes, just little things like that. I mean, this is the president of Honda Racing, one of the most important people to us that love the series. And he's walking around and nobody even knows who he is. And I get that. I mean, it's not like he's front center of interviews and, press conferences and things like that. But, the fact that I recognized that, who he was, and told him that I appreciated, all that they were doing for the series, and the fact that they had sponsored the series for so long, and there was a time when all of the engines were Honda before Chevrolet came in. So if it weren't for Honda, there's times when I wasn't quite sure how the series was going to end up, going forward. But so they're very important. Little things like that really matter, and that's what I'm talking about. Things get back to people. One little effort like that probably made his whole weekend, and he needed that. And obviously, we need Honda to stay as a sponsor and engine supplier, and it would be just tragic if for some reason they didn't renew their contract. But we'll talk about that definitely in a future episode. But and then next we'll talk about how you can bring your family and friends into your sponsorship blitz, or your patronizing of the IndyCar sponsors. And like I said, awareness is the key. When my kids were little, it got to the point to where they would start pointing out sponsors when we were in Home Depot or Lowe's. It's like, Dad, isn't that one of the sponsors of one of the cars? Well, yes, it is. Okay, well, we'll grab a few of their products, and so it actually ends up being fun. And other series do. I mean, NASCAR does a really good job with that. I mean, the sponsors of NASCAR, the fans definitely know who they are. And if your favorite driver is driving the Bass Pro Shops car, one weekend, well, guess what? You know it, and man, you're going to go to Bass Pro Shops every chance you get. I mean, that's just kind of how they are. And that's how they've been successful and retained a lot of their sponsors a long time. So that's what we need to do, is to be aware of who the sponsors are. Like I said, it's fun. You can be creative with it. It doesn't cost a lot of money, but look at who the sponsors are. And next, we're going to talk about the most prominent sponsors and go through a list of them. I'm going to post a list in a future episode of all the sponsors that you can just click on and go right to their website. But yeah, we'll go over the main sponsors here so that you can kind of come up with a little plan and have some fun with it. I mean, it's amazing how boring your week is for the most part if you're working or whatever. And if you plan a couple of visits to a few stores that sponsor one of our cars, I mean that that makes it fun, and it gives you something to look forward to, especially during the off season. When we're looking for things. We need our racing fix, and it's hard because there isn't any. But yeah, this is a way that you can participate in growing the sport and really feel like that you're a part of the success. So here's a list of the major sponsors that I came up with that are going to be around in 2026 because obviously that's important. So we got Firestone, enough said, Honda, Chevrolet, Sirius XM, DHL, PNC Bank, Gamebridge Financial Services, which is also part of the group like 1001, and the Delaware Life, which is affiliated with NTT Global. And then NTT Data, the title sponsor, technology partner. They've done a great job. Then you got Shell, Pennzoil. You can definitely go and patronize them. Velo, which are the little vape pens. Coors Light is the official beer of the IndyCar Series and Indianapolis 500. And so, yeah, why do we not have a silver bullet car? Well, we're going to talk about that in a future episode. There have been ones before, so we definitely need to work on that. Splenda, hey, easy to get Splenda anywhere. Java House, if you like coffee, you can order online. United Rentals, they're everywhere if you need any type of equipment for just a few days. And obviously you don't want to invest the money in buying it. You can rent it at United Rentals. They have literally locations all over the place. Fifth Third Bank, they don't really have them in Texas where I live, but I think they're more prevalent up in the Midwest and Northeast. So I'll look more into that. But yeah, if you have Fifth Third Banks, definitely go check them out. Open a checking account, get a mortgage. Arrow, which is a technology company for people with disabilities, and they make things that help people that can't get around have normal lives, which is awesome. Mission Foods and grocery stores, Dex Imaging, they do digital like logos and signs and digital media graphics and things like that. Verizon's super easy. They're everywhere. Has an awesome network. I've never had any problems with it. Tire Rack, if you want to order tires online, you can have them shipped to you and take them somewhere to get them installed or do them yourself, and it saves them money. Good Ranchers beef, which I'm definitely going to check out. Order some of that online and try to cook me some steaks and see what they have to offer. PPG Paints. I was in the paint business for a long time, and PPG was my competitor. But hey, a great company and make awesome products, and they're everywhere. If you need any kind of paint for your home, they have stores all over the place, and you don't have to go into the big, box Home Depots and Lowe's or whatever and fight with all the people. They have people that know what they're talking about in their store. So then you got Delaware Life, like I said, a life insurance company that's affiliated with Group 1001. Journey Rewards, which is the convenience store chain rewards program, more prevalent up in Canada and like the upper northeast, I think. And I'll look more into that. Like I said, we'll come up with a better list that has more descriptions and you can access their website, to make it as easy as possible. If you don't, obviously if you don't see these companies out and about when you're shopping and you're going about your business, you can go online and order things there, and that helps out a lot. And what I do a lot is I go to the contact us after I buy something from one of the sponsors, and I actually just put a little note in there and say, hey, thank you for sponsoring the IndyCar Series. I'm a big fan. I appreciate what you guys do. I ordered, a couple of shirts or whatever, and I've gotten responses back. Hey, that's great. I mean, that's the kind of thing, like I said, they need to hear those things from us so that they know that they're getting, some return on their investment. And then Siemens is a technology company that does automation for like manufacturing lines and stuff like that. Huge company. So, and they're a sponsor of NTT Global. So, that's the main ones I could think of. Like I said, I'll come up with a better list next week, just because this video is run on a little bit long. But that's just the awareness I was talking about. Just be aware of who these are. I'll list them in the description. We'll move on. So the sponsors that I wanted to highlight this week, one was a new sponsor called Browning Chapman. It's a construction company based in Indianapolis area. They have locations in other cities. They have one in Dallas Fort Worth that I'm going to go maybe check out when I'm up there next time. But they do like basically concrete work, like floors for like hospitals and churches, and they do like courts, like concrete courts for like pickleball courts and things like that. So a really cool company. I'm going to try to interview somebody there that had a say in their sponsorship, and find out a little bit about what that experience was like and what they expect to get out from their sponsorship. But yeah, they came on board the very last race on Marcus Ericsson's car. So definitely keep in mind what they do, because they do some amazing things from what I can see. And then we talked about Honda Racing Corporation. They actually sponsored a couple of cars in particular races. One for I think Kyle Kirkwood, and then obviously Alex Palou had the Honda sponsorship on one of his one race, and the car looks great. I love the way that they did that, and so I put a picture up. But we talked about ways you could patronize and give Honda business. I mean, if you need a car, it's the best place to go. Sometimes Honda's one of the only places that they literally run out of cars. People like their car so much. It's such a good value. The local Honda dealership in the town that I live in, for months during those COVID years or whatever, they didn't have any cars. There was none on the lot, where other car lots were full. I mean, so that tells you something right there. You can't ever go wrong with Honda, and we appreciate their sponsorship. And it's really cool that they actually sponsor, events like Toronto Grand Prix Honda dealers and things like that. So it's really cool, all of the things that they do for the series. And yeah, it's so important that they stay around, and we need them. And so let them know that we care and that we appreciate them. So the next episode, I'll let you know a little bit about my little call with the PNC Bank and the diecast, and I'll take some pictures and kind of go through what I said and what their responses were, and we'll go on from there. But yeah, think about the sponsors that we talked about. Come up with a little plan, maybe to go check out a couple of them this next week, and then we'll build upon that. And we got plenty of time. We got a few months, so we can really make a difference. And I appreciate everybody making it to the end of this. I know it was long, but we got a lot of sponsors, and that's a good thing. The main, goal is to just be aware of them and keep them around, make them happy. That's what we have to do, because without them, we wouldn't have the kind of series that we have. So thanks again, and everybody have a good week, and I'll talk to you in the next video.
Prepare to qualify.